We were talking about earlier in the programme Secretary of State Marco Rubio testifying before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. We're joined now by Senator Tim Kaine, a Democrat from Virginia. Senator, thanks for being with us. I know you've just dashed from the Senate floor, so we do appreciate your time. Just firstly, on the issue of Iran, were you clear from Secretary Rubio on just what the administration's plan is there?
Absolutely not, Katrina. They talk about trying to protect protesters, but the administration is deporting Iranians back to Iran to face the very human rights abuses that they seem or pretend to be concerned about. And now they suggest the Armada of the United States is steaming towards Iran to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. We had a diplomatic deal that was stopping Iran from getting a nuclear weapon that Donald Trump decided to tear up, even though it was working. So we really don't have any idea. The statements about Iran are a little bit like in Venezuela. It was about narco trafficking. Was it about regime change? Was it about the seizure of oil? They're giving us all kinds of mixed message. Bottom line is Americans don't want to be in another war in the Middle East, and this kind of saber rattling by a president that is already engaged in a bombing campaign against Iran is very troubling.
On the issue of Venezuela then, I was watching as you were trying to get information on from Secretary Rubio on that, especially on what the administration intends doing next. I mean, he's been so critical of this regime, and then he said, we're on a path to stabilisation, recovery and transition now. Did you get the answers you were looking for?
No, because, those 3 points are fine points, but exactly when, how long, what's going on. Venezuela should be for Venezuelans, not for Americans to decide who is their leadership, how their economy should be structured, not as a giveaway to American oil companies. I confronted Secretary Rubio with the fact that a simple question, who won the Venezuelan presidential election in 2024? He acknowledged President Gonzalez won and President Maduro lost. But the Trump administration has installed Maduro's loyal vice president who led the oppression regime, Delcy Rodriguez, instead of the opposition candidates that overwhelmingly won. Why would they do that? Why is the president saying that Maria Corina Machado, who won the Nobel Prize for her advocacy during her entire life for Venezuelan freedom, doesn't have respect enough within the country to be the leader of the country? So it was good to finally have a hearing after 5 months of a bombing and missile strike campaign against Venezuelan boats and on land. There hadn't even been a single public hearing yet because the administration doesn't want to discuss these details in public. But the hearing left many questions unanswered that we need to still get to the bottom of.
And Senator, I know you have to dash. Just one last question, because we've been speaking about the situation in Minneapolis and yourself and your colleagues there in the Senate pledging to withhold support from the funding measures unless the funding part for the DHS is removed. Have you any update for us on that? How's that progressing?
More Republicans are starting to come out and saying, you're right, there are 6 spending bills, as you know, Katrina, pending in the Senate right now. Let's split the 5 away that don't deal with DHS, and we can pass them and fund those items for the remainder of the fiscal year, and we can do that right away. Republicans thus far have been unwilling to do it. They seem to want to shield ICE, even if it hurts the Pentagon budget or our education institutions. The good news is more Republicans are starting to say, you're right, let's pass the 5 bills and then focus on DHS reform. That's the only path forward that's going to work.
But are we headed for another shutdown, do you think?
We needn't. As soon as the Republicans realize we can get the 5 bills done and then focus on DHS reform, we can make that happen quickly. They have been slow to get to that point. I don't know why they would want to shield DHS when these abuses are happening that have grabbed the attention of the world and earned the just tremendous outrage of American citizens.
Okay, Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat from Virginia, thank you very much for joining us here on BBC News.
Absolutely.